Hello, welcome to another one of these things for everyone to look at, but it's my patrons that will get the puppet. Here is another character that I've made for the advert that I'm currently working on. It's, as you can tell, he's quite a scrappy, scraggy looking character, and that's deliberate. These characters are supposed to denote, the sort of things that are inverted quotes badly created, and then you read my book and suddenly you're able to make these marvelous things. I mean, it's a stupid thing to say, but I've got to sort of, that's the long and short of it. And I knew that it was stupid when I was writing it, but you have to have some kind of hook, so that was the idea. Anyway, I actually quite like him. I think he's quite cute. Anyway, one of the things I really do like doing is again, in inverted commas, badly drawn characters. And one of the things I wanted to do was to come up with a method where a line boil is easily done. And I've written about this in my book Line. What I've got here is a button that turns on and off render preview. So if I turn it on and I move it outside the visible area, you'll notice it isn't displaying, and that's because Harmony only renders within this rectangle, so anywhere else you won't be able to see it. So I'm going to put him back, but what happens is that the render preview sort of shows you what the boil actually looks like, and you can see there's quite a lot of change of position of that line work. What I'll do is I'm going to just press play for a little bit and then let it go. Actually, I have to do that while it's got the render preview on. I'm just going to press play for a tiny bit for about 29 seconds, 29 frames. And now I'm just going to wait a little bit. And if you were to see the timeline, you see the render preview line in the timeline, the layer. You see these little green dots go all the way along, and that means it's a rendered frame for you to preview. It should have done that by now because there's not an awful lot to watch. So when I play this back, we now see, this is in OpenGL mode here, we now see the rendered version of the line, which is quite nice. So there you go. It just gives you an idea of what the line's doing, and this wobbliness of the line, I'm really pleased with how that came out, to the point where I'm probably going to make some custom brushes and put them online, because I think I need more boilable lines that can do all sorts of things, and there's a particular way to do it. So I want to do that. Anyway, this is the character. All the line boiling happens automatically. There's a node inside the node view that has the actual line boiling texture values here. There's a brush that has the wavy line on it, and then what this does is that it actually just shifts the line up and down. It sort of shifts the texture up and down the actual pencil line to create this effect automatically. And you can affect when it happens, whether it happens when you move the character or whether it happens on 2s in this case, or 3s or 4s or whatever you might want. And what I've done is I've actually transplanted all the values that are relevant from here and made them into an easy to get at box when you go to the main group, or indeed the whole group here. You can still see these things. And what this does, it holds the value of each position for 2 frames, and then it moves on to the next one. You can change it to dynamic, which means it would only move when you move a part of the puppet, that sort of thing, as if you've redrawn the characters, things like that. That won't work as effectively as giving the impression that you're redrawing the character, because if you were doing this on cell, you would only redraw the parts that move, not the entirety of the character. And because this moving texture is put at the very root of the character, it means that it moves everything in the puppet rather than just the little bit that you've moved. So if you wanted to have textures that only move that particular part, you have to have several of these dotted around the particular body parts. And that gives the impression that essentially you've redrawn just the finger or the hand or the arm or whatever it might be. If you imagine how it used to be back in the day of celluloid, and you had, Scooby-Doo or something, and, Fred moved his head, his body would remain static, and his neck might, but the rest, his head certainly wouldn't, and his mouth might sort of shift around a bit as well. It's that kind of thing. It's basically trying to mimic that kind of thing. Now, his entire body is made with constraints, and they're all interconnected, and it's pretty straightforward. So I can move bits and pieces around like that. I think he's got like several here like that, but the main one is to move the feet around. Now, his feet are not designed really particularly to move around much. What he was designed to do was to move his body around. So his feet were supposed to be planted, so you can't move them very effectively. But the reason I did that is because I wanted these to kind of squash and stretch and follow the line like that. What I could have done, and you're welcome to modify this if you wish, is to take you notice that both these pegs have a sort of one peg to move the two around. So I can move the top one around like that. I could actually put it like that. That would probably make more sense. Let me just do that. There we are. But whenever I'm grabbing it like that, I'm grabbing hold of the individual peg. If I were to want to grab hold of these two bottom pegs here, which I think are these two, and you do that sort of thing and move it around, you'd need another peg here, which I'd put in like that, put the pivot point to where I think it should go, which is probably on his heel like that, and then move that around like that. It's not perfect. It's not really designed for this kind of movement at all. He's on screen for hardly any time at all. It wasn't in my interest to do that kind of thing. He just shifts his weight a bit. That's all he does. So be mindful that he can't easily walk around, put it that way. That's not what he's designed to do. His hands can move around very freely, and he can sort of do a few bits and pieces like that. But again, he can't wave or do anything like that because his structure isn't designed for that kind of thing. He's got one hand here which is connected in some elaborate way to make the hand do stuff. There are issues with him. I'm not saying for a minute that this puppet is perfect, but he's on screen for the blink of an eye, so there was no point in going into elaborate detail and make every finger riggable. It's certain things were more important than others. What is fairly elaborately done is things like his blinking. I've got a proper blink there, which is controlled by shifting the top of the eye up and down like that. If I move it the other way, it does the same thing, but in reverse, you know what I mean, like that. There we go. Blink, blink, blink. And I can move the whole head around like that, and it positions like that, and all that sort of stuff. So it's got a fair few good things going for it, but there are some issues. Those feet, I don't know how, let's see how that renders if it goes to a funny glitch like that. I think it does render that ghastliness. Yeah, not quite in the same way, but it doesn't look good. So, there are issues with it, and I'm aware of that, but who cares? It was going to be on screen for a few minutes. It's not a big deal. So this isn't as elaborate as the previous puppet that I put out. It's one of these quick, cheap, dirty characters that's on screen for hardly any time at all. But it's got some interesting ideas, particularly with the texture. So that's more where this character is of interest. His character textures are actually quite interesting. And for all of that, you can actually get some quite nice little movements out of it in his limited way. So very short one this week, but it has some potency. It's got some interesting bits and pieces of it. So do check him out, and look forward to the more elaborate puppets that are coming later. Pick him to pieces, analyze him, hate him, love him, all of that malarkey. It's the part of it's the whole point of this sort of thing. And hope you enjoy. Bye.